And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
When am I going to learn to not judge a book by its cover? Well, I don't know when I'm going to learn that. Well, here's Fealty. This is a game from Asmadi Games. I saw it at Origins 2011, and you would think that I would be jumping all over it. The track record innovation from the same company is very good. Of course, they also made Win, Lose, Banana. But, that innovation game, but I just looked at it and was like, another game where you put stuff on the board. Well, they twisted my arm and made me play. Well, they said it's a very short game. And it was a short game. It is a short game. But it's pretty in-depth for a short game. And I fell in love with it on the spot. Let's take a look at it. The game comes with a number of boards that you can use over the course of the game. You can use, any of the boards that you choose and build any board you want, but the rule of thumb is to use one more board than the number of players. So this is how you'd set up a two-player game, although you could play a two-player game simply on just two boards if you want a faster and, I guess, bloodier game. Each player then is going to take a deck of cards of their colors. Now, there are different decks that you can take. If you notice, there's numbers in the corner here, and they all end in zeros. This is the missive deck, or you can take the sun deck, which all the numbers end in 5. And I guess with the variants, you could maybe mix the decks. But you have to be careful because the 80 piece is also the 85 piece. And so you're going to have pieces for your team. So you'll take your deck of cards and put it in front of you. And then you will also have all your pieces, and your opponent will be doing the same thing. And so on your turn, or on each turn of the game, you'll have cards in your hand, and then you'll play a card, draw a card. You play the cards face down and turn them over. So let's say I play a 20, and my opponent here plays the 80. So I get to put my piece out first. I may place my piece anywhere on the board except on an obstacle. The only obstacles that are out right now are these mountains. Although conflict tokens can be placed as the game progresses, that will also be obstacles. Some of the pieces have special abilities that do that. For example, my 20 is going to let me do that. I can place a conflict marker within 3 spaces of the piece I put down. So let's say I put the 20 here. My opponent then, who is playing the 80 because he's slower, more powerful but slower, he'll take the 80 piece, but he cannot place it on the same board in which I just placed the 20. And they have a cube here in case you forget which piece was just played, especially in 4-player games. So let's say he places it here, and then he has a special ability. He also can place a conflict marker within 3 spaces. So he counts 1, 2, 3, because he can't go straight through the mountain when you're counting spaces. So 1, 2, 3, and he places a conflict marker there. On the future, when you place new pieces, as you do this each time, you cannot ever place a piece that's in the same column or the same row as one of your pieces, and you also can't place a piece on the same board that your opponent played on. So going first is a big deal each turn. And each of the cards has abilities. Sometimes you have ones that let you move another one of your pieces 1 space. This one can't be moved. This lets you, some of them have no special abilities. Here I can put an influence within 1 space. So I can put an influence marker on the board. That's these little tiddlywink pieces. And the abilities of the 5 deck are a little bit more complicated, the ones that end in 5. But, there are also different special abilities. Moving pieces, placing influence. You can move this piece, etc. Once all the pieces have been placed on the board, at that point, you will start with the lowest piece. Actually, you won't place all the pieces. You'll place all of them but 1, or in a shorter game, you'll place all of them but 3. Once you place all the pieces on the board, you will then claim influence with them. Again, you start with the lowest number. So, let's say, for example, we have a 10 on the board. A 10 claims influence on all the cities that are within 2 spaces. You can see that. It shows cities, and then it shows here 2 on the side, 2 spaces. It shows a grid. So if I have a 10 on the board, and he's here, I can claim everything that's 2 spaces away, all the cities. Well, actually, there's none, because I go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. There's none. But if I had placed them here, I would claim influence on that one. And nobody else can claim influence on that one because I'm the first person to do so. And so you'll see that's not very powerful, though. There's very few spots on the board where I can put him where he's going to claim more than one place. Although down here I see one. Hoo-ha! If I place them here, I could claim 2 cities. And the 20 that we had placed earlier isn't that much better. He can claim any terrain in one space. So he'll claim the 4 around him. And it gets bigger and bigger until the 90 can claim any terrain in all the spaces around him. However, at that point, by the time you get to the 90 and are claiming all the terrain around him, there might not be much left to take over. And someone may have positioned you where you're being blocked by mountains and conflict markers and other tokens, or just the area has been claimed. So when you play these cards, it's all trying to get out cards that get out faster and get you, influence on the board, but when should you play the slower ones that get you a lot more influence? And so it's a mix of that. I'm showing you basically a 2-player type game, but you can play, as I said, up to 4. I'm already thinking of different ways where I can, different variants I've heard about, where people are drafting which cards they're going to use. You use some of the pieces from the set that ends in 5 and some that ends in a set with 0, mixing them together. For me, I almost want to say I like to play this as exclusively as a 2-player game. I will play 3 or 4, but 2 just seems to be where it's at, and it's fast, but it offers really meaningful decisions, and that falls squarely in where I like my abstract strategy games, because let's face it, despite the somewhat trappings of themes, this is an abstract strategy game, but it's a good one because it combines piece control, where they control areas on the board each piece, with a bit of outguessing your opponent element, but just sheer strategy. The boards are different every turn. The pieces that you'll play are different. The order you play. So it has a ton of replayability in a small package. It's an excellent game. It's never going to be the main game of an evening. Well, I guess you could play a 20-match series. But it feels big enough that I think gamers are going to be really satisfied with this. At the same time, the barrier of entry is fairly low and easy to get into. So pick it up. I really enjoy it.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.